Today on Spotlight, we'll really be putting the spotlight on Huntsville by interviewing the mayor, Jay Turner, at the Cafe Texan. Stay tuned. Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Brook Bortz. We're here at the Cafe Texan, and we're getting ready to have an interview with the mayor of Huntsville, Jay Turner. Please join us. Mr. Turner, for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
We appreciate you being here. I have a few questions for you today, and it's just some general questions about the city in general, since you are the mayor.
Okay.
I want to start by asking you about the recent designation of a portion of downtown Huntsville as the cultural district. I believe the Texas Commission on Arts was the one that designated that district. What does that mean? I mean, what is this?
Well, this is something that we're very fortunate to have because all cities obviously don't have this designation. But it's not really a surprise because Huntsville has always had this cultural component as far as live music, art galleries, and what this does is formalize it. It gives us an umbrella to work under, and so it will be a great thing for our community as far as to make it possible for the rest of the state of Texas to realize all the wonderful things we have going on here. As I say, we have live music at several different venues. We have art galleries. Cultural arts has always been a big part of our city.
So this is right up the alley of Huntsville, right?
Exactly. This is something that the comprehensive plan mentioned that is one of our strengths we need to build upon. And so it's just taking the next step, you might say, as far as doing what's good for our community.
Great. What do you think this will do for the local economy? I mean, do you think this is actually, and what I mean by that is tourism. I mean, do we think that this is going to increase tourism to the city of Huntsville?
Oh, it has to help on that because, as I say, it's a designation that all communities don't have. I'm sure that we will get exposure to where, for example, when you think of the literally millions of people that live in Houston, that how many of these people really understand what a resource we have here in Huntsville. And I may also add, as far as the university is a big part of this because we have our school of theater, we have and dance, we have art department, and the university is building the new Performing Arts Center. That will be a huge magnet for performances here in our area.
Great. Well, I'm excited about it too. When I read about it in the newspaper, I was thrilled. I think it's a great opportunity. I also wanted to talk about some city council discussions that will be going on soon, and probably some ordinances that will be voted on. The first one I want to talk about is the alcohol ordinance. This Thursday, y'all are probably going to. You will discuss it. And I wanted to see, even if you don't vote on it, I wanted to know what your feelings were about that. If you thought that this was something that will be good for the Huntsville community, if it's something that you don't agree with.
Well, this is something that you have to look at it from many different points of view. It's not something that is so simple that there's just one point of view, and so we bring all of that to the table where there's there are the aspects as far as what does it mean as far as a community. One of the things that I think is very important, and that is the state standpoint of this, of the state of Texas has laws that govern the sale of alcohol, and then at the same time you have a local component, and so you have to decide how does our local community fit in with the state on this issue. You obviously have the concern as far as safety. Is this going to make a difference on that? You have the concern as far as with community. We were just mentioning about the cultural arts, and if you're having live music, does it impinge upon attracting groups to come play? If you do have an earlier closing time than perhaps at other venues that have a later closing time. So it's a many-faceted issue. It doesn't have just one component, and council has already considered this, and I'm sure that council will take all of this into consideration before coming to a final decision on it.
Okay. Well, and what do you think it has to do with the local economy? I know I keep referring to the local economy, but that seems to be a big concern in today's day and age. Do you think it'll boost the economy if it is?
I think it's very complex. Here in Huntsville, you have very many different components to our economy. As far as the sale of alcohol, that is one component. And I think that it will have some impact on it, but I don't think the decision will be made solely on this aspect about the money of it. I think it's this aspect of compatibility with state law. I think as far as this of when you're trying to attract musical groups to come here and the hours of performance. And so it's very complex, and many different factors go into this, not just one or two.
Okay. And the responsibility of the students, and I'm going to say students since this is a college town, do you think students will drink responsibly if the hours are extended until 2 a.m.?
Well, I think that this is something not limited to students. It's something that the entire community has to be responsible about. You know, when we talk about the concern about safety, we already have very explicit laws and ordinances about this drinking and driving. If you're impaired, whether or not it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock at night doesn't matter. That's very clearly an illegal act, and I think that law enforcement will do their job and protect the other citizens of our community. As far as being responsible, I think that the students already show that they are responsible citizens, and I don't think that is an issue.
Okay. Alrighty. My last question is, and you did just touch on this a bit just a second ago. I guess my question is, do you think that the DWI, the increase of DWIs or the increase of drunk driving could be affected?
This is one of the things that we've asked our police chief to investigate as far as other communities when they've done this. I'm not an expert on this, and I don't know. I would tend to think that I don't know that you're going to have more people. It just seems to me it may shift the time as far as, if you have closing time. When you shift the closing time, that may push it back later in the evening. Interestingly, if I may digress for a second, that I saw an article this week that talked about that one of the most dangerous things as far as from a road safety standpoint is this aspect of people that go to sleep driving, not that they're impaired. And I'm sure that when you're on the road and it's late at night, that this is a concern for our community, and that's that people pay attention when they're driving. Driving is something that requires full attention. It's easy to be distracted. You can be distracted by the other people in the car. You can be distracted by your cell phone. You can be distracted because you're worried about a test that you've got coming up. And I think that concentration on driving is very important, because driving is something that needs your full attention. It's not something that you can be doing in the background of. I think it needs to be your primary attention.
Okay, right. And I mean, so you don't think that, so basically you're saying that just like you could fall asleep at the wheel, I mean, the likeliness of that happening is
Well, I think that if you're driving at 3 a.m., that you're.
that would be more of
I think
worry.
that driving at 3 a.m. is always more hazardous than driving at 10 o'clock a.m. And I think that we have to be responsible drivers whenever we are behind the wheel.
Okay, that's a good point. I agree with that. I want to talk about the animal ordinance that
Okay.
that the city council will probably be discussing, probably not voting on soon, but discussing. And basically that ordinance is going to prohibit the sale of animals along roadsides and parking lots. And I guess my first question is, who is this going to benefit? I don't see who this will benefit. I mean, because I don't see how it's hurting anybody either. But my question is, who will it benefit if this is passed?
This ordinance at this stage is still very much in the discussion mode. And also, let me quickly say that this is something that has been proposed by Councilwoman Mahaffey, and so it's one of her passions on this. She also serves on the board of Rita B. Huff, which is the animal shelter. I think that what the concern here is, and like I say, I'm a little bit hesitant to say what her concerns are, but as of what I've heard, number one is this aspect of the health of the puppies being sold. It can be pretty traumatic. You see the cute little puppy and you buy the puppy, and then it turns out that the puppy's not healthy. The second part of this is this aspect of controlling the animal populations that we have. We already have programs as far as to try to encourage pet owners to be responsible, because if you have a dog or a cat or something like this, and you have a litter of puppies and then another litter of puppies, it's how do you control that? Because having puppies or kittens without homes is a very sad situation, and it's a public health issue of, okay, how are we going to make sure that they have their shots? We had a situation here not too long ago, and actually this dealt with the bats, but of a woman got bitten and she didn't know whether or not the bat was rabid or not. Well, with rabies, it's the kind of thing of you have to start taking the shots right on, and it's a severe public health risk. As a city, when we live in close proximity to one another, we have to be concerned about public health and safety. We have to take precautions that if you lived out on a ranch with your nearest neighbor being a mile away, you don't have those same kinds of concerns. But when we live in close proximity one to another, we have to be more concerned of how does this affect our neighbors? What are our public health responsibilities? So at this point, it's difficult to know exactly what the language of such an ordinance might be. But I think that if I was to try to articulate what the concerns are public health and safety.
Okay. And it also sounds like the concerns are for the animals themselves,
Absolutely.
even beyond the people or the
Absolutely.
owners. Okay,
Absolutely.
that makes sense. I can understand that. I want to go ahead and also talk about the Highway 19 situation. I know that's been a big danger. I mean, we've had a couple deaths. I think you were saying
Absolutely.
earlier,
Yeah.
one death.
Highway 19 is something that, first of all, I have to say that I'm very proud of. I think he may walk by.
Hello, Jay.
Hi there. Hi there. I'm sure you run into that a lot.
Of Highway 19 was first started, I believe, about 40 years ago. Of the development of Huntsville as a city is we're a fork in the road, you might say. And that one fork of the road is going to Dallas and Fort Worth, which is the I-45 part of the fork. And the other fork of the road is going north and east, more towards places like Trinity, Crockett, Palestine, Tyler, that type of thing. And 40 years ago, we started this road, and there's sections of this road that's 4-lane divided highway that is very good and efficient. Unfortunately, the section between I-45 and FM 2821 has never been completed, and it's a 2-lane road that is very dangerous. Matter of fact, we had a study done of this, and it is twice as dangerous as the average section of highway in Texas.
And when you say twice as dangerous, I guess that's based off of how many deaths happen per
Deaths
year.
and injuries that we have there. We have been averaging more than 1 death a year on this stretch of road, which is not good in the extreme. And so a year ago, when we got our new city manager, Bill Bain, and I was in his office, and he was talking about, okay, what are some things that we can work on that have broad support across the community? Because we had been through some contentious items that did not have broad support. And so we were looking of what would be a project that the entire community could get behind. And Highway 19 is one of those. I have to say, this is a project that across all sections of the city, people recognize the need of this project. So we began focusing on this, and we've been focusing like a laser beam on this as far as when we talk to our representatives and they say, well, what does your community need? We would say Highway 19. What is it that we can help you with? Highway 19.
So you guys are getting funding from...
Absolutely. Of next week, we will be going to Austin. We will be making a presentation to the Texas Highway Commission. And the good news is that we have been notified that it looks like that we will be getting $15 million worth of funding, and construction should be beginning within the next year on Highway 19 for these improvements. And what these improvements will do is, as I say, they will make it 4-lane all the way from I-45 to connect into where it's already 4-lane. Now, this portion of the road that we will be building is what we call an urban arterial. It will not be a divided highway the way that the interstate is, but it will be 4 lanes, and this should go a long, long way to making it a much safer stretch of highway.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and move to the to a lighter subject. I was noticing that you guys are going to be, well, that you specifically are going to be asking City Council for funding for to bring home the 72nd Brigade Special Troops Battalion, and they're a National Guard battalion from Huntsville. They're stationed where right now?
They're at Fort Bliss, out at El Paso. And a couple of things on that's sort of exciting. The first one is that this brigade has about 800 or 900 soldiers total. And of those 800 soldiers, about 85 of them are from Walker and Madison County. The rest of the soldiers are from Houston. So I have challenged the Houston mayor, Bill White, to a friendly contest of who can raise the most money to bring these soldiers home for Thanksgiving. The wager is 5 pounds worth of brisket. Mayor White had come up here earlier to visit our community and had some barbecue here. So I'm challenging him to see who can raise the most money for this. Which, by the way, of anyone that wishes to make a donation on this, at City Hall, we are accepting donations at the place where you pay your water bill. We have a little window there.
Everybody knows where that is.
And yes, everyone pays a water bill. And we want to encourage our citizens to get behind this because the soldiers will have 4 days leave at Thanksgiving, but the U.S. government does not pay for them to come home. So when we were talking to their officers, we decided that this would be something that we could do as a community. We have talked to some businesses here locally that will match whatever we raise from the individuals. So when you make a contribution, if you make a $20 contribution, not only does that $20 go for bringing the soldiers home, but the businesses that have pledged to match this will be doing $20. So that's $40 towards bringing our troops home for Thanksgiving. Let me also add that next week, next Friday, I believe it is, I'm going to be flying to Fort Bliss to visit with the troops, to give them encouragement and tell them how much we appreciate what they're doing for our community and for our nation. Because what these people do is very important. Because these, as National Guards, these are people that are working in our community to begin with, and they have been activated to go over to the Middle East. They will be serving there for a year, and they will be returning in December of 2010. And let me tell you, we are already planning a tremendous homecoming for these troops when they return in December.
I'm sure. Well, that's great. I'm sure the families are so thankful that y'all are doing this. Who brought the subject up? Was it something that you...
Well,
did the family bring it up?
It's something that in visiting with the commander of the brigade, he had brought it up as far as if I would be interested in going to Fort Bliss to visit the troops, which I told him for sure.
Right.
And then we got to discussing this about Thanksgiving. Now, I have to tell a little joke on myself here as far as how naive I am. I first said, well, for sure, we'll take care of it, that I'm sure that at the very least we could get some school buses from the school district. Well, you know, riding from El Paso to Huntsville on a school bus, I'm sure would not be a very enjoyable experience. And so I was told by some people, well, you know, we need to raise some money and buy airplane tickets for these people. And so I said, yes, that's so. And so now we're doing everything we can to raise this money to be able to fly these soldiers in comfort of a nice jet airplane to where they can get home in a few hours versus spending their entire leave riding on a bus.
Well, that's great. Alrighty, I wanted to talk about what you're doing now as mayor. I know you're head of the city council, but what are some things you hope to accomplish before you leave office? Or some things that you're working towards now? And they could even be things that you haven't started working on, but it's something that you want to try to accomplish before.
Well, we've already mentioned some of the very important ones.
Okay.
But let me add some other things that we have not mentioned. Number one, as we speak, we have a fire station that's under construction on the northeast part of town. They have, they've got the slab going on that, and that's a very exciting project. In this election we had last week, we put to the voters, did they support us renovating and expanding the library? The voters responded overwhelmingly in support of that. And so we're going to be renovating and expanding our library. That's a very exciting project. Another very exciting project that we have that really brings together all the components of our community, the university, the prison system, and the city itself, is the Town Creek project, which is something that runs through the center of town. In our community, first of all, we have this phenomena that I refer to of that we have flood and drought in the same year. Earlier this summer, we had about 3 months of where we didn't get any rain. We were all worried about the fire danger, and everything got very dry. And then, about the 1st of September, we started getting rain, and if I'm not mistaken, the month of October, we were way over average as far as how much rain we had for that month. Well, one of the things about that, and when you've got a community such as ours that with a lot of hills, when it does rain, we got to do something with the rainwater. And so we applied for a grant, and we're still waiting final confirmation of this grant. We're optimistic that we'll be able to get it. But this would be a $10 million grant to upgrade the drainage of the town creek. And what this will involve is doing a series of retention ponds there just north of where the stadium is on campus.
Yeah.
And we will be upgrading the retention ponds. We will make some hiking trails. We will be planting trees to make it look very nice. And then it comes through the center of town, really just about a block from where we're sitting right now, goes by City Hall, goes by where the Aquatic Center and the Esom Thomason Park. And so this is another very exciting project that I hope we get the grant on and we're able to bring to fruition.
Absolutely. I mean, if that's going to prevent flooding in certain areas of the city, and absolutely, that's very important. I'm sure homeowners will be excited about that, and it'll be great. And one last thing I wanted to touch on, the election on November 3rd, there were 10 charter amendments that were voted on, and from what I understand, the charter is kind of like a city constitution.
Absolutely.
So, what do y'all plan on doing in regards to the passing?
Well, if I may mention some highlights here. First of all, there were 10 on the ballot, and 8 of the 10 passed. Now, this may sound a little bit funny, but I took pride in that because it showed that our voters read these things and use discretion about it. They just didn't automatically vote yes for all of them or automatically vote no. So I was very...
Or even knew what they were to begin with.
And knew what they were to begin with. So I was very encouraged that our voters read these over and decided which ones to vote yes on and which ones to vote no. If I may say, 3 of the 8 I think are especially important. The first one was one that limits how much money the city can borrow without going to the voters. This is very important because you wouldn't just give your credit card to somebody and not have a little bit of say-so before someone puts money on your credit card. And so this is passed. So this means that if the city is going to borrow a substantial amount of money, that we go to the voters. Now, you have to couple this with the library, as I said, which was on this ballot. We said to the voters we wanted to borrow $3.5 million. The voters overwhelmingly approved this. They said, yes, this is something that we're willing to borrow money for. And so it shows that this kind of program can work. It shows that if you ask the voters and you have a good project, the voters will respond and say, yes, that's something we need. So I thought that was very good. A second thing that was on the ballot this time was
Try to wrap up those last 2. I know we're running kind of behind on time. So
is this as far as for referendum and recall, that this was made to be 1,000 voters, and this is very good. Lastly, and this is very important to everyone watching us today, is that we changed the charter as far as when we will have municipal elections.
Okay.
So in the future, we will be holding our municipal elections in November, as we do as far as the other elections for county and state government.
Great. Well, that's exciting. A lot of new things coming up, and I appreciate you being with us today. Thank you so much, Mr. Turner. I'm sure the viewers and the listeners are enjoyed this conversation. I hope I learned a lot of things I didn't know about. So thanks for joining us today. Join us next time for Spotlight.